So although I'm kind of like a horror guy, I've got to ask you about Avatar, The Way of Water. I mean, what was that like?
What it's like is humbling.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Den of Horror. Over the next few weeks, I will be releasing segments of an interview that I did with one of Hollywood's most talented makeup and prosthetics designers, Sarah Rubano. In today's episode, she speaks a little bit about what it takes to be a makeup artist in Hollywood, her unlikely journey into the world of movies, as well as what it was like working on the mega movie Avatar: The Way of Water. She'll also share with us, if that's not enough for you, a little bit about the pros and cons of working on a big movie such as Avatar versus working on smaller movies such as what I believe to be one of the greatest horror movies of the last 30 years, X. So I hope that you enjoy. Let's jump straight in.
Gaze into the abyss.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show.
Like, just to start this off, I wanted to ask you if you could just kind of unpack a little bit, and excuse my ignorance when it comes to makeup and stuff like that. But what exactly does Sarah Rubano do? Like, I have this image in my mind of a makeup artist. See the actor on the chair and the makeup artist sort of applying makeup, but I know that there's a lot more to it. So in your own words, what do you do?
Well, as a makeup designer and a makeup head of department, I am part of the storytelling process. It's an awesome collaboration between the other creative departments, costume department, art department, props department, and of course, working under the direction of of our bosses, our director, our producers, the studio, and really just developing a story visually, coming together and being a part of a storytelling experience. And I always imagine, when I'm reading a script, I think to myself, well, how can I tell the story through makeup, through hair, through prosthetics? If there were no words in the story, how could I convey visually? So, that's usually how I break down a script. But as a makeup artist, makeup designer, it is part. I'm honored to be part of the storytelling process.
Wow, I really like that. If there were no words, how would you be able to convey that message? That's really, really cool. Now, again, excuse my ignorance, but what is the difference between a makeup artist and a makeup designer, or is it sort of one and the same?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a makeup artist. That is my skill. That's my background. So then I have also a team of makeup artists who are, basically, they are delivering, the vision that I am passing along to them. I'm saying, hey, we need to get to this end result. Here's some thoughts, here's some ideas, here's some product, let's have a play. And so they are there to help facilitate. And when I'm a head of department and a makeup designer, I am setting a tone. I'm, like I said, working very closely with the director, working with the actors to figure out what that aesthetic is going to be. So when you're in that role, you're part of the development, that creative development, and you're setting the tone and you're setting the aesthetic. Whereas, and I'm also, I'm doing the testing. So then I flick into makeup artist role where I'm actually physically doing. And so, yeah, I guess it's all kind of one and the same, but as a makeup head of department and as a designer, you're setting the aesthetic and you're working very closely with the director, and the other entities to portray that visual whatever.
How did you go about getting involved with this exciting world of movies and television and all of that? Or was it something that you sort of just gradually developed from one role into this world? Or how did it happen for you?
Yeah, my story is it was very organic, the unfolding for me. And so I've been involved in this film and television, this entertainment industry for 30 years now. So it's been, my adult life. And so like the last 3 decades. I grew up in a creative household. My mother was an Avon lady, and she was an awesome mom, a stay-at-home mom. She also made, clothing for all of us kids. So I just grew up watching her, inspired by, her creative abilities. So that was a big influence on me. I knew I wanted to do something creative, went to college, wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but got a degree in broadcast journalism and writing. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll be a writer, and I'll write for the news or something. And I was living about an hour east of LA. And after college, I moved to Los Angeles and, trying to make money to pay off those student loans. And a lot of my friends in Los Angeles, they were doing extra work. They were doing production assistant work. And it was a means to an end. And so I thought, well, goodness, I have 0 contacts, but I'm going to dip my toe into that pool, and I'm going to see if it resonates, see if I can get some traction. And, I did eventually get a production assistant role, and I went down the avenue of production coordinating, so all administrative. But I knew that my pull was into the creative realm. And so then opportunities started presenting. And really one thing led to another. And this is what I talk about at trade shows. But for young people coming up, everybody's given opportunities. It's what you make of them. And really starting out and all the way through to now, whenever I am sitting in a wonderful, opportunity, I really make the most of it. And I did back then. And then I got my traction. And, in this industry, you have to be good at what you're doing, but you also have to be enjoyable to work around. You have to get along with others. And so, that's important. So you got to be a team player, and you got to be a hard worker. You got to be looking for stuff to do all the time, and you can't be late. And so for years and years, I put my head down and just went. And one thing led to another. I did costume and fabrication. So for a while, for about 10 years. And that was great. And that landed me in the world of makeup effects and all the effect shops in Los Angeles. Steve Johnson, Todd Masters, Henson's, all of those shops. So I was a little shop rat for a while. And then I started to segue into prosthetics. Was given great opportunity and made the most of it by the likes of Howard Berger, especially. So one thing led to another. And then you start doing something and you're like, Jesus, I love this and I'm good at it. And so then there's just when you're passionate about something and you feel like it's where you should be, then great things start to happen. So that is my story in a nutshell.
Wow. I mean, that's so cool. And I mean, you were talking about, being professional and enjoyable to work with. And obviously you've been very enjoyable to work with if you just look at the sheer volume of work that you've done, and also the actual projects that you've worked on. So although I'm kind of like a horror guy, I've got to ask you about Avatar, The Way of Water. I mean, what was that like?
What it's like is humbling. It's a really big project, that projects. And, one of your questions that you sent me was, do you get starstruck? Well, I wouldn't say struck, but I would say awestruck, because, it is incredibly humbling to be and surreal to be working alongside the likes of Jim Cameron. And I grew up on his movies. His movies influenced me. Alien, Abyss, those movies were riveting for me. And so, I was a young teenager at the time. And so to be then fast forward to being one of his department heads and collaborating, working alongside him was very surreal and awesome and challenging, all of those things. But, at the very end of it, at the end of the day, at the end of the working block, just incredibly rewarding, because, we put a lot of hard work into it. There's a lot of intricacies, of course, because of all the VFX component and how live action integrates. But yeah, really, really cool and honored.
Can imagine. Wow, amazing. From a makeup perspective, or just a person working in movies, what's the difference? I don't know if you want to call it pros and cons, but the difference between working on something as big as Avatar and then something a lot smaller like X.
Yeah. Well, there are aspects of both that I really enjoy, and there are aspects of both that are incredibly challenging. So, they offer different things. And that's a good question, Den, because, there is a real difference in the experience, the overall experience. I would say, obviously on the smaller projects, there's more budgetary constraints, which can be challenging because you don't have as much resource. But within that, there's more creative freedom and more, a little bit more collaboration with the entities that the creative entities that you're working directly with. So being on a bigger project, there's a greater range of like influential voices, so that can start to become a little bit challenging. But within that, you're part of something that's big, and you're part of something that's super exciting, like Avatar, The Way of Water, which is like a tsunami of excitement. So, and your resources are endless, and you have the ability to hire the team you need to, and to really be able to resource appropriately and accordingly. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. But yeah, always pros and cons to both. And but I love aspects of both, which is why over the years I've flipped back and forth. Working on X and Pearl in the middle of my Avatar experience was very refreshing, because I had the Avatar experience and that was awesome. And then I got to get, the joy of working on a small, kind of smaller crew, just this, like, let's just go for it, guys, not guerrilla filmmaking. It wasn't that rough, but it was just a smaller entity. And so there was, really cool stuff within that I got to glean.
And there you have it, folks, but don't fear, because the interview is not even nearly done. Next time, Sarah will speak a little bit about her friendship with Mia Goth, as well as what it was like working on Ty West's movie X. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, set your reminders, and join Sarah and I for the next part of this interview.
Gaze into the abyss.